passage of kisses. The village where Simon and Claire lived was very picturesque, rustic, and quiet. It consisted of a bunch of little wooden houses huddled together at the foot of a mountain. The air was clean, the roads were narrow, and life was peaceful. The inhabitants of this region were close and lived as one big family, with the exception of two people. The parents of our two protagonists, teenagers at the time this story took place, were precisely those who did not have any affection between them. On one of the corners of the main square, Alphonse, Claire's father, had a bakery where he made what he considered to be the tastiest and fluffiest breads in the region. On the opposite corner, Octave, Simon's father, owned a cookie and pastry shop. Above each of the businesses were the houses where both families lived, so from a very young age, the two children could see each other from the windows of their respective rooms. Claire watched Simon evolve from a scrawny little tadpole with giant teeth and freckles on his nose to a young man with defined muscles, brown skin, and curly dark hair. On the other hand, Simon watched as Claire stopped being a plump little girl with indomitable blonde hair and developed graceful feminine curves, learning to wear her hair in long, ornate braids that framed her lovely face. One day, it became evident to both teenagers that they couldn't bear to be apart anymore. Due to the ongoing conflict between their parents, the couple decided that it was better to keep their relationship secret. They escaped to the lake, walked through the woods, and mostly exchanged glances from their windows when no one was around to see them. The summer in which the story unfolded, the young couple was more in love than ever. Love letters were thrown from window to window while their parents rested at home, oblivious to the great affection that grew between their children. The small passage that separated them felt like agony, as being so close yet so far at the same time tormented them. If they both stretched out their hands, they could almost touch with the tips of their fingers, but their desire to kiss was stopped by the gap between them. The days passed one after the other in the same pattern. While the powerful and plump Alphonse waved a flute of bread at Octave, saying that the low quality of his cookies affected the town's reputation, Simon, up on the windowsill, blew kisses at Claire. On one particular occasion, he peeked out too far. The space that separated them was very small, and in his attempt to overcome the distance, the boy fell into the street, breaking his leg in two places. Weeks later, while Octave rebuked Alphonse for trying to steal his customers, defaming his pastries, and luring people into his shop with lies, Claire attempted the same feat as her young love, feeling so close to him that she could stretch out her arm and touch him when she, too, slipped from the window. She was a bit luckier, and instead of falling to the ground, a large nail caught in her nightgown, stopping her fall. So first thing in the morning, anyone passing by could have seen Claire, half naked in her torn nightgown, hanging from the window. But that day, fortune was truly on her side, and she was able to sneak back into the house without anyone seeing her. One Saturday, the couple felt more in love than ever. It was festival time in the town, and in the street, there was a hive of people coming and going, enjoying the carnival and the food that was served. The activity on the street was as strong as the passion that consumed the teenagers who were lost in each other's eyes, unable to look away for a second. Downstairs, both their parents were just as intense. The crowd made the enmity between the two even greater. They fought over the customers, shouted insults, and threw things while the onlookers stopped to watch them as if it were another show of the festival. The desire that Claire and Simon had to kiss, to feel their warm lips meet, was immense. Their parents were red with anger, ready to choke one another. The couple's fever was growing. They were so close. The merchant's anger increased. They were truly enraged. The teenagers couldn't stop looking. It was physically impossible. They were captivated. If only they could be closer, they thought, and someone or something seemed to hear them, for even when they were frozen by the window, both teenagers felt how their houses began to shift beneath them. A supernatural force was fulfilling their deepest desires, and without destroying their homes, it was bringing them closer, so that now the distance between one window and another was not so great, allowing the teenagers to reach each other. Still a bit astonished by what had just happened, Claire's hands ran up Simon's arms until they reached his shoulders, while he encircled her waist and held her close to his body. Leaning over the windowsill, they felt there was still a significant gap between them. Both faces came closer, and their lips merged in a passionate kiss that lasted for a few intense minutes. Below them, in the street, the entire town and all the visitors from the surrounding area turned their attention to the two houses that had just been moved. To everyone's immense astonishment at what had just happened to the two buildings was added the surprise of discovering the children of the two eternally feuding merchants locked in a gesture of love. Those most impacted were the parents of the teenagers, and they did not know very well how to react. What had just happened could not be a coincidence. The earth did not move without a reason. Both Alphonse and Octave looked at their houses, their two children, and each other. That same cycle was repeated 3 times until the adolescents stopped kissing. Still holding on, Simon and Claire looked at their parents. Neither Octave's eyes nor Alphonse's could believe what they were seeing. It was their worst nightmare come true. They exchanged defiant looks and began to move closer when the earth trembled again. Both houses seemed to get even closer, tightening the embrace between their children. Fear chilled them, and Alphonse dared to take another cautious step as the ground vibrated slightly. The signal seemed so clear before them that they had no choice but to shake hands, pressured by the expectant public, their own children, and the supernatural force that had moved their houses. A higher power had spoken, and they had no choice but to obey. From that day on, the small corridor between the two houses was known as the Passage of Kisses. The couple moved on with their relationship, which remained strong and close until the day they died. Their parents decided that there was no point in continuing to fight and joined their businesses, always leaving intact that passage that became the foundation of a strong alliance. To the surprise of both, it also led to a pleasant friendship.